The Honda Civic Si is world renowned for years to be a lightweight, affordable car that is nimble, cheap, economic, high revving, and most importantly, fun to drive. The 7th gen Civic Si, or the ep3 in this case, is one of, if not the most hated Si generations that have ever been made to this very day. Today we're going to be over the car, getting down to why and if it is truly as bad as people say it is in our modern day. Does the EP3 obtain the characteristics to make it a true Civic Si, or does it fall short and make it one of the biggest failures of the Si generation? Let's find out today in this 2005 Honda Civic Si review.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today I got yet another review, something I've wanted to do for a very long time. Behind me I have a 2005 Honda Civic Si, also known as the EP3. And in the intro you may have known, this car has gotten tons and tons of hate over the years. Is it justified? Why is it so hated? So today we're going to take it for a drive. We're going to do a quick overview and see, is it a modern day bargain, or is the hate justified? So today let's go over this 2005 and see how does it perform nowadays and why is it the ugly duckling of the SI community. Let's do this. So let's start off with powertrain and everything like this. The EP3 Si started from 2003 and ended in 2005. Didn't have a very long lifespan, and probably one reason why you don't see many of them on the road. It's almost like they're rare. You really don't see them much, especially around the States or on the west coast of the States where I am located. These motors were the first K-Series to arrive into an SI here in America. They came with the K20 A3. That is one of the bigger reasons people don't really like it. And I think I could defend it a little bit and have a reasoning why they put the K20 A3 in the SI here. If you don't know, the K20 A3 is a 2-liter inline-4 K-Series, the first K-Series in the SI, as I mentioned. Also came in the base RSXs here in America. So these are also known as economy K-Series, kind of like the 9th gen K24 also was an economy K-Series in that term. So these motors push out 160 horsepower to the crank and about 132 foot-pounds of torque, because it is the 2-liter, it is not the 2.4 liter. Also, it has iVTEC, but it only has VTEC on the intake side rather than the exhaust side. So unlike the 8th gen Civic Si that came with the K20 Z3 and had 2 cams for VTEC, giving you that loud VTEC roar that people love so much, this doesn't have that with a stock motor or with this stock head. They also revved out to about 6,800 RPMs. So for the 2-liter, that is pretty low, and why a lot of people like to give it some crap too. But 6,800 RPMs is still nothing to fret at per se. It comes matched with a 5-speed manual transmission, not the 6-speed. This car weighs in around 2,700 pounds, so a lot of that lack of power people like to say it has makes up for it in the fact that it is a lighter car. It is about 200 to 300 pounds lighter than the 8th gen Civic Si, so that makes up for quite a bit. Has a unique shape to it as well that not many or any other ones ever kind of retained. This one's pretty cool. I think in the way of the front end almost looks close to an EK. They kind of retained this single kind of grill here, but kind of kept the same kind of shape going on. Similar headlights, little stubbier, a little fatter, So they really kind of went EK route, and then for the back, they did their own thing and made it into the hatchback. Rather, the EM1 or the 6th gen Civic Si was only a coupe. So this is a basically full stock car, other than it does have some aftermarket wheels. It does have a cold air intake. It is not really a cold air intake, more of a hot air intake. Has an AEM intake system. Other than that, stock exhaust, stock everything else, not even tuned. It does have a shifter and a shifter extension. Otherwise, that is it. So let's walk around the car, let's talk about it, and then let's go for a drive with the EP3. So let's start in the engine bay here. Again, very much the K20 of the 8th gen, just looking at it. And in fact, you do have some more space to work with. It isn't such a short hood to where it is over the valve cover, where you can't even get to spark plugs like the 8th gen. So let's give the 7th gen here some props that it's way easier to work on with some just normal things. And unlike the 8th gen, this has a hydraulic power steering pump, not electric. And I think that really helps the car with its steering feel. We will get to that in a little bit. And I mean, otherwise, again, completely stock other than this AEM intake. And even though it doesn't give you a ton of horsepower, because it does end right here with the exhaust system right there in the back, you are going to be soaking up more hot air than cold air, so not really a cold air intake. It does make some good sounds. So if that's what you want, cool. And again, this car is not a race car. It was not built for that nature whatsoever. This is a mechanic's car, and he dailies it to work. So if that gives you any idea, it is reliable. This car has 192,000 miles on it and still punching so strong, it's quite ridiculous. These motors are bulletproof. Again, aftermarket wheels. We got 4-disc brakes all the way around like the SIs like to have. Nice corner mark light right there as well. Again, hatchback, very econo hatchback, very hot hatch like. And then the very interesting back that lots of people love to hate, but at the same time, it's not too bad. It really resembles more UK rear ends, like UK cars, Peugeots or anything like that, in my opinion. So it just doesn't go with the style that most people think when they think SI, but it does not mean it's bad. Has the dual tip in the back as well. And the very weird thing is that people love to talk bad about, when really pretty cool, is the shifter location on this car is on the center right there. Very weird position. It looks so weird, but really it feels so good in the position it's at, and you will see that with the driving. Steering wheel looks really nice as well, and the seats in this car are really good and destroy the 8th gen seats, in my opinion. They bolster you so much better, they look much better, they're just all around better. So with that walk around, there's not much to see. Stock EP3. Let's go for a drive in this little 2,700 pound Civic Si.
All right, here we are in the EP3. Nice little key, no fob, just keys, so cheaper to replace if lost or broken or whatever. Let's start up this little rig here. The normal Honda chime that we've all loved so much. Start her up. Actually, 194,000 miles. Lights right here on the stock, like any Honda ever. We got our cruise down here, our power mirrors down here. Let's see, auto down, auto up. Wow, all right. And the passenger is not. And of course, push up for the wipers just once. Down is intermediate, faster, fast. Very basic. Our rear defroster there, recirculation, AC, and he does have an aftermarket stereo system in here. And here is our shifter. The normal one is not so tall, just ends about right here. He just extended it. It came from another car. Looks pretty cool, actually. I think it might feel pretty good. I haven't really drove it, so let's see how that feels. Has like a little hoodie here to go over. It looks so cute. I love that so much. All right, let's go. And let's talk about this engine and talk about this car and how it performs, how it feels, and just why people love to hate on this. Because I did make a video about, it was close to a year ago now, about the 9th gen SI being the most hated SI. It is not the most hated. I just use that as a title, and most people clapped back telling me, you're wrong, you idiot. It is this one. So let's see why people think that. And on paper, I see why, just right off the get-go, why people would think that, but let's see how it is. Again, 5-speed manual transmission, 5, and then reverse is in your normal position. So let's get here going. I love the feel of the steering wheel in these seats. Sitting down in the steering wheel feels so much better than the 8th gen. The 8th gen's steering wheel feels not too good, and the seats are not uncomfortable in an 8th gen in the FA5 or the FG2, but they are not this comfortable, man. These are ridiculously comfortable, and they hug me in so well. I don't believe this 5-speed as well has an LSD. I could be wrong. Again, only intake VTEC on this motor. You're not going to hear VTEC that loud. You may just a tad bit more with this AEM this AEM intake, but barely. And I think VTEC's around 4,300 RPMs on this car. We're not completely warm, so we're just gonna take it easy for a sec here and just get a feel for what it feels. And I do gotta say, I love this shifter position. I've heard that a million times from people that actually have drove these cars, because a lot of people make fun of the shifter here because it looks weird. It does look weird, but you don't have to travel far. Here's right here. That's it. And from first, it's closer. I bet you I don't even have to take my hand off the steering wheel to reach first gear. Very light flywheel, or at least feeling flywheel. Very easy to rev match like most SIs are. Again, this seat feels so good. I am a 5'8" male, 220 pounds. I'm a very heavy boy, trying to work on that. And I fit, so I'm a pretty wide guy, and I'm seeping over the edges a little bit on here, on the seat, and that's a gross way to explain it, but true. But it's not, it is holding me in. So if you're a little bigger of a guy, do not worry. And I do have quite a bit of headroom above my head, so if you are a taller guy, I think you could easily drive this. The steering feels so much better than an 8th gen because it is the hydraulic power steering, which I prefer in the feeling department. The 8th gen, the 9th gen, they could feel pretty numb because it's electric, and electric's just too easy. It almost feels kind of like a force feedback video game wheel that's put on really light settings. You don't feel much, you don't get much feedback, there's no force to turn it. This, I'm not saying this is hard, it's definitely not hard to steer. It feels super light and nice, but there's more feedback, and I definitely know what's under me, which is super important if you want to have a little more of a enthusiast car. And the steering wheel has just the perfect grooves to fit your hands in. It feels really good. Super light flywheel, man. There's VTEC. Yep, it is a little bit louder with this intake. I'm not sure you guys can hear, but let's see if you can. It has a little growl to it. That's actually more than the 9th gen has. It really is. Let's see if I can heel toe it. Yep, I can heel toe this car pretty easily, actually. Take it around this corner here. The pedals are just like the economy Civic. They did not change the pedals at all like they did in the 8th Gen SI. So the gas pedal is a little stiffer than I would have thought. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, just an observation here. The intake sounds good. I'm not gonna lie. That actually sounds pretty decent. So let's talk about the engine, okay? This is the main thing that people like to complain about on the car, which on paper I completely understand. It's it's an economy K series, and for an SI, that's just it's not what you want, right? You want, let's go top gear here. It's not what you want. You want a performance K series for your performance car, your SI, right? Your more performance oriented daily driver like this car is. So I do get it. And it only makes 160 horsepower to the crank, so you're probably putting what, 140, 145 down to the wheels, and you only have 130 foot-pounds of torque, which is low because it is the K20. It is a 2-liter rather than the 2.4. If the K24 came out with 160 horsepower, people would complain, but at the same time, it'd have more torque, so people wouldn't really have much to say. And the worst thing with this engine, those numbers on this car, is the fact, like on the 8th Gen I have, it doesn't have much torque at all either. It barely has more torque than this. So the 8th Gen stock has 197 crank horsepower. So quite a jump over the 160, but the torque numbers are almost identical because it's still a 2-liter K20. But the difference is that car redlines at 8,000 rather than 6,800 RPMs. So because it's such a small displacement and no torque, you need to hit on these cars a lot, but it's hard to do. You can't keep it in such high RPMs because it hits redline way earlier than the other SIs, the other K20s. So that's its major conflict. To be honest here, the 5-speed does it well. When I heard that this car had a 5-speed in it rather than a 6-speed, I was kind of bummed, and I was like, well, no wonder people don't like this, because you don't have that extra oomph. Since this car doesn't have much torque, you would think they'd want to put a closer gear ratio in the transmission, but they didn't do that. They kept with the 5. Or they might not even have made the 6th Gen the 6-speed by that point. Again, this is the last year of the ep3, the 2005, before 2006 they hopped over to the 8th Gen. So they might not even have made the 6-speed by that point. But to be honest with you, if I were to do autocross with this car or daily in, the 5-speed's kind of great. I don't have to shift all the time. If I'm in traffic, last thing I want to do is just constantly shift the car. That's the thing about the 8th Gen. It's a 6-speed, but they're super close geared. It's just like you have to shift so much. And if you're doing autocross or something, that was a rough shift. If you're doing autocross, man, my words aren't working. You might not want to be shifting all the time. You want a little leeway. You want a little leeway. You want to have some overhang here. So even though it doesn't rev that high, because it's a 5-speed, it kind of works for me. I didn't think I would like having only 5 gears. And you kind of got to think at the same time, this I think one huge reason why this is like the ugly duck or the outcast or the forgotten SI is because look what came before and after it, man. I mean, you gotta think that, like that, look what came before. The 6th gen SI is probably known as the best SI ever made, ever. It had the B16 in it. It was the coupe. It looked hot. It looked sexy. It was in the middle of the tuner craze. It was going wild. And by the time people were buying them like crazy, that one already ended and this one came out. And suddenly, after years and years of the B series raising, like going nuts, the B series was awesome. Over in Japan, it was nuts, and then we finally got it, and we were so excited to finally have the B series over here. We're like, oh my gosh, are we gonna get the B18 in the next SI? Because the GSR Integra got it, and the Type R that we got over here had it as well. Oh my gosh, are we gonna get the B18 in the SI? And then what do you know? Nope, we got a new motor, the K20. And suddenly, everyone's looking at this like, what in the hell is that thing? Because we obviously didn't know how awesome the K series was going to be. When the K series came out, people weren't a fan of the thing. They're like, we love the B series, what is this? So they just, I think one huge thing with this car, I'm actually a big fan of the way that intake sounds, but one big thing with this car is it was immediately let down and people forgot about it immediately because it came after the most legendary SI ever. And then right after this one in 2006, they learned from their mistake and they started perfecting the K series a little more. They gave us the K20 again, but this time they let it rev to the moon like an old B16 and gave it a 6-speed. This thing almost had no chance with that. With the 6th gen and then to the 8th gen, two like legendary SIs. There's this poor guy. This is the middle child, this poor little bastard. And it sucks, because you know what? I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun. It handles very nice. And these are stock sized tires, right? So they probably handle very similarly. The brakes are pretty good. The 5-speed, actually feels really nice. The shift placement on it is awesome, actually. I don't have to reach down here and feel like I'm like, woo, race. This feels like rally car placement for the shifter. The steering feels so much better. The steering wheel feels so much better. The seats feel so much better. Why didn't they just put these seats back into the 8th gen? Come on, guys, what are you doing? These feel so good. It handles very nice. It's 2,700 pounds. And you know what? I could definitely feel that it is more nimble. There's VTEC right there. I could feel that this is more nimble than the FA5 is. And mine's modified, so obviously mine handles better because I got coilovers, I got sway bars, I got stickier tires on it. This is stock. It got some all-season tires on it, very similar sized wheels. It has stock suspension, no sway bars, except probably the little pencil-sized ones that came with the car. This is nimble. I'm gonna say it. I think this car is a modern-day bargain. You could scoop these up for ridiculously cheap because no one wants them. And that is a shame. I do gotta say, let's pop it into first. We're not gonna go wild here. This is guy's daily, I'm not gonna go nuts on it, but I do want you guys to hear the intake a little bit. Should we roll down the window for it? Not that much. It does fine. It does fine. I'm not gonna lie. Reading the specs of this car on paper does sound a little scary. you're getting the K20A3 that everyone kind of craps on the RSX. That's why everyone's like, well, make sure you get the Type S, unless this is the one that came in the Type S. But I don't think so. I don't know. You guys will definitely correct me, but people crap on the A3, and I get why. I really do. And just head swapping it apparently is kind of harder than it would be normally. So most people just put the K24A in here, or put like the K20A in here, or the K24A2, and this thing rips. And you know what? I get it. But to be honest, if you're looking to get into autocross, or you just want to have an enthusiast car, you want to have an SI, get this, man. It's gonna get pretty decent gas mileage because it's 5th gear. Does pretty good. I mean, not crazy. We're at 2,900 at about 58, so I guess it's not crazy good, but get it. It has 4-disc brakes. It weighs pretty light. You still got a K-Series, so swapping a K-Series at a later date will not be a hard task for you guys to find. Hey, look at that. I actually really like the grunt of the sound of this thing. It sounds much different than my K20. I think it sounds pretty cool, actually. I think if you were to put a cat back on it, I think it would actually sound pretty decent. Not a straight pipe now. I don't think that would sound too good on here, because again, it doesn't have exhaust VTEC, so you're not going to be getting like any VTEC sounds from the exhaust. But if you just amplify that exhaust just a tad, not super loud, just a little bit, it would sound really good. VTEC. I'm a fan. I am. Does it deserve the hate? No. This doesn't deserve the hate. This is a fun car. Again, if you're looking to get an SI and you want true VTEC, you want crazy high revs, isn't for you. Go get a 6th gen Civic SI, or get an 8th gen Civic SI. If you want a more modern one, get the 8th gen. The 8th gen is truly the last Civic SI that has true VTEC with the dual cams, because then the 9th came out and that also had only intake VTEC. The 9th gen has so many similarities between this one. It's just this one gets crapped on more because it looks weirder, and it's the K24, so you've got a ton of torque. This one doesn't. So honestly, if you're looking to get into an SI and see what it's like, or you just want a fun little project car you can have some fun with, boy, do I recommend this car. I am having a really fun time. No wonder he dailies this thing. It's fun, it's comfortable. If you want to hit the corners a little harder, keeps you in the seat. The shift placement feels fantastic. I gotta say, it may look funky, but it feels really good. That intake, even though it's not really doing much, it does sound good. It really does. Ricer mod or not, it sounds pretty good. So, 7th gen SI, you poor middle child, misunderstood bastard. You surprised me today, I'm not gonna lie. I am impressed. So with that being said, guys, I'm gonna take these corners up here for you guys, and I'm going to be logging off for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys understand the 7th gen SI just a tad bit more. Hope you give it a little bit more respect, and maybe buy one. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Let's take these corners right now.